Welcome to Stage Dive, a podcast where we go deep on the art of live performance to help artists perform better on stage. I am your host, Jack Dawkins. I am a rapper, poet, and storyteller out of Boulder, Colorado. My guest this evening is Voodoo Onyx. She is a burlesque dancer coming out of New York. She is also an embryologist for her daytime job, which is bonkers. But we had an amazing conversation. We talked about a moment featuring a concert in Greece where she found the truth of the universe. We talk about what it is to connect to people and why that's such a valuable part of performance. And we talk about why you might never want to perform at a sex party. I hope you enjoy the conversation. I know that I did. So without further ado, here is Voodoo Onyx. What was the most joyous part of your day today?
Coming home. Coming home. Yeah. So daytime work, I'm actually an embryologist in human reproductive, like assisted reproduction. And it's extremely stressful because
Yes.
some patients, some women are persons, they don't create eggs and they want babies, or they have a partner who doesn't make sperm and they want a baby. So you're dealing with just really fragile egos, fragile desires and expectations. And yeah, sometimes I'm just like, man, I want to go home so bad. So I just want to go home. So yeah, long story short, coming home.
Yes, I can understand that, taking off the cloak and the weight of the world and just being
You
like, I'm
know.
just going to leave you by the door for a little bit.
Bye.
Yeah. Send you into oblivion. Thanks so much for being with me today. That is great. That's amazing. So is that like IVF stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm actually so when sex isn't enough, I'm the one that takes your sperm and takes that egg, and then I put them together and actually inject the sperm, pick an individual sperm and inject it into the egg, and from there, may the magic happen or not. But yeah, that's what I do.
But we cross our
Daytime work.
fingers.
Yeah,
Daytime work, of course.
daytime work.
So wait, this is
You're like, what?
the process of making the connection between
hmm
sperm and egg.
hmm
Is that a meaningfully complicated one, or is it one of those things where you do it and you're like, wow, that was remarkably simple in the grand scheme of things?
Um, so it's not and it is, right?
Okay.
So I've been working in developmental genetics for like 15 years, and just doing mouse embryo manipulations. So was able to make that jump during COVID into human reproductive services, and it's pretty much the same, but human eggs are far more rigid and like can withstand some abuse. I mean, we're
Mm.
taking a needle and piercing it, and trying to get into the cytoplasm. I'm not going to, bog down with words and stuff, but but yeah, I guess like it's a matter of looking and monitoring the development. It's looking and monitoring the everything that comes in contact with human gametes, and hoping for the best. And like I also do, um, which is also pretty difficult, um, biopsies of actual embryos. So we're taking a laser and cutting a slither of cells off to send out for genetic testing to know if, hey, this gene might be carrying an extra chromosome or not,
Something.
and all that kind of
Yep.
cool stuff. Yeah. But yes, I like to get home.
I'm going to show
Just
some
turn
restraint
off.
because I could ask you like a billion more questions because I'm
Yeah, I mean,
fascinated. But
afterwards,
like,
like we can ask away. It's like so I have some friends that they just kind of waited. I think like most of young people, especially young women that are getting out there and they want to really anchor themselves in a career or anchor themselves in a relationship before they start procreating, and sometimes they wait a little too late. Everyone's different, and then it just becomes more difficult. So we're seeing a lot more single women, and women in like various degrees of relationship and what have you, and just trying to save and store their eggs, and
yep.
also just trying to get the right one so it'll stick and they can actually start their journey into this shithole that's called parenthood in 20 what? It's just it's fucking madness, man. It's madness. I'm like, what am I doing every day? But I love it. But it's like, what? Why?
I,
I
I
have
have
no
a
money.
well, and you tiny
You
humans are impossibly expensive. You
you
are.
know what I mean? It's just like they just take. You just
I
give willingly. You're just like, okay, I love you so much. Okay.
no, there's the conversation around parenting, and I don't, I can only speak for myself and the vague generation with which I'm in, but there was certainly a pattern repeating of like, hey, let's not talk at all about the realities of parenthood, and
Yeah.
we'll just sort of look at the pretty pictures on the wall and be like, boy, remember how great that was? And
Right,
then as
right.
soon as you become a parent, everyone's like, yeah, isn't it fucking tough? And you're like, why didn't you say that prior to fucking making a
Preach
human?
it.
Like, that
Preach.
would have been super valuable information to have before we did this. Like,
It's
why?
because they like to see you
Dude,
squirm a
it's
little bit. You know, it's just like I want misery to be shared throughout. But
right. Well, and
it's one of those
now,
things you'll never understand until you do it, right? So you
yes,
can warn
yes,
someone all night and day. It's like, dude, it's tough. It's a forever job. It's not even like a relationship, right? Where you can just tap in and say, you know what? I'm not feeling this anymore. I'm out. That fucking kid is around forever,
forever.
forever, ever,
Yes. Well, and like, I sometimes feel like I'm crazy. And like music has been interesting because I am generally older. I'm almost 36. And so like to be ah, like
Anyway,
context is
yeah.
everything. Context is everything.
Of
So
course. Please
within
proceed.
the circles I'm running, people are like, man, I'm almost 30. And it's like, shut the fuck up. But regardless, like I'm interacting with people who are where I was on this precipice of like, relationship, marriage, kids,
Yeah.
and they're thinking about it and talking about it. And like, it's really hard not to be like, hey, have you considered just not doing that? If you really want to, in your heart of hearts, you feel called to bring a person onto this earth and care for them for the rest of their lives. It's because you're a saint and I love you and I appreciate
Yes.
you. But if you enjoy, I don't know, like Sundays and freedom and like
Sundays.
part of the things you work for all your life, right? Sundays, man. Just
I
like
I I don't even remember a Sunday that I didn't have to be up by like 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'm living on the edge even with that, you know.
that's pretty wild. That's like hanging 10 off the surfboard, 8:39
Like,
o'clock. That's intense.
like it's so my husband and I, when we first started considering the idea of like, do you want to have kids? Do you want to do this? I don't know. We were both kind of on the fence. He is from Georgia. They start early, but since we started dating, and I was just like, let's think
Mhm.
about this.
Yeah,
So we delayed. And when you think about having kids or a kid rationally, it makes absolutely no sense.
zero.
Zero sense.
Mm-hmm.
And what you have to romanticize everything, right? So that's the only way we were able to break into this idea like, well, what's the magic, like to see a sunset again for the first time with real appreciation, or touch
Mm.
the sand for the first time, or hear a giggle that you've never heard before. So you really had to just sit back and then take in all the it could be's,
Mm.
if we allow it to happen. And then I got knocked up real quick after that stupid conversation. And and I was like, okay, this is great. Cool, this is what we're gonna do. I
Mm-hmm.
was not that cool, but then we went to our doctor visit, and they were like, "Well, yeah, we see a second something." I was like, "A second what?" Yeah, second heartbeat threw me through a it was like a pile driver into into so many levels of despair and question and whys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
None of this makes sense. It just doesn't make sense, but it's
No,
beautiful, and I guess that's what nature's about.
it is. It is. That like the I am so my daughter just turned 5 in January.
Oh,
And
that's
so
awesome.
like I am your relationship to parenting and being a parent is ever evolving because your kid
Yeah.
is evolving and you are evolving, and it's
Yeah.
happening in lockstep, right? So like my experience of parenting featured very little of like the joy in the moment.
Okay.
Like, and I don't want to be hyperbolic, but yeah, like the realities of like cleaning shit out of a diaper or a tiny toilet over and over and over and over and over again, they
It's a
lose their
spiritual
charm
prison. It's a
real
spiritual
quick,
prison.
real quick. So like, again, that's the piece that I feel like they don't talk about. There's just like
Yeah.
this relentless onslaught of repetition is
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Where I'm finding a lot of emotionality in parenting is in seeing how fast you lose things, which like people always say, you know, it's like, oh, the time goes fast, and it does, but it hits me in weird times of like, I was just traveling this week. I got to my hotel room, I opened the curtain and there was a playground. And I was like, how many more years is she going to want to do that? Because my first thought was like, oh, Saxon would love that.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, in like not many years, dad is not going to be cool. Playgrounds are not going to be cool. This is going to be irrelevant until she's like 30 and having a nervous breakdown about her job. She's like, why can't I go back to the playground? It's like, I'm with you, babe. I was there
Let's go
20
right
fucking
now.
years ago. Let's go.
Let's
Or like,
grab a beer. Let's go do it.
oh my God, a roadie to the playground? Yes, please. Or like I'll be in a toy store or a clothing store and I'll see things she's outgrown or wouldn't play with anymore, that like wubba nubs. Anytime I
know
see
what those are, but that sounds cute.
the pacifier with the little stuffed animal attached to it.
Oh yeah, we did not do that yet.
Awesome. But
super
man,
cute.
like Saxon was attached to one for 2 years straight, and she had her favorite ones, and there was one for bedtime and one for breakfast. And of course, in the moment, I was like, where the fuck is the giraffe? Like, we have the donkey and the unicorn, but she doesn't want it. She wants the giraffe. So where the fuck is the, like, fine.
Yeah.
Now, anytime I see one, I'm immediately like, boom, tears.
Yeah.
So it was just like, miss it.
Did you guys hold on to those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have one. And we had kids early relative to a lot of our friends, and so wubba nubs abound. They're around often, which is nice.
Oh.
But
they're hers, so they make them more special.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Twins, my goodness.
Yeah, they're pandemic babies even. Just like they're about to be 3 in April. Yeah, that was an experience. Like there was a lot of experiences. So I guess to even introduce myself as a performer, I was performing up until about 4 or 5 months pregnant because somehow I still had abs, honey, and I was like, oh, this is it. And after that, it was just like pretty smooth sailing. And February, I think that's when we had like our baby shower, and that's when COVID started coming around, right? This is when they start talking about, well, maybe you shouldn't touch hands. So everyone's at the baby shower, like bumping elbows and doing like the what was it? Kid and play kind of kick thing or whatever to not touch hands, and then it just went downhill from there, right? So, kind of speaking back to no one tells you these stories. You grow up with the story of you have family bathing you and just all just like, oh my God, you're so amazing, you're so strong, your family, oh my God, balloons and flowers. And luckily my husband got a chance to be there for the birth, and then he was quickly whisked away, and I was by myself in the hospital, laid up with 2 babies because thank goodness they were healthy, so they didn't have to go into any isolate situation or locked up by themselves. So I had them with me with very little nurses, and because everyone's trying to tend to the dead, fucking COVID, dude. And that was my story into motherhood. I'm like, I don't get the flowers and the balloons and the crying grandmas, and I just made people grandmas, and they're not even around to fucking take responsibility for what they've been asking for, and wild times, yeah. But yes, I'm a dancer too.
I dance. So wait, was that in New York City?
That was in New York. So we were considering even leaving New York to go to Georgia because the South just doesn't care. So we were like, okay, well, perhaps to at least have some with me, I'm young, I'm young, quote unquote, I'm black, and I'm about to give birth. It's just terrifying, considering. And to not have my husband with me during this process just would have just sucked any
Yeah.
little leftover joy of like the idea of having kids. So luckily, we stayed because the governor changed his idea about what's undue punishment for new moms
Mm.
and said, okay, a spouse or someone that can go in with them and just stay until the birth, and then they have to go. So that's what we did. It sucked, but
Oh my
we made
God.
it out alive. We're
Made it
all
out
here.
alive. And
Yeah, we're all here.
the kids were healthy, thank God.
They were healthy. They both came home the same day with me, and that was that. I just bawled as I'm leaving. I was like, "Oh my God, I don't know what I'm rolling into." 'Cause, they roll you out in a wheelchair. It's like I don't know what I'm rolling into.
Oh my God. Another moment that I don't think I'll ever forget is when you get home for the first time with your kids and
Mm,
like you assume there will be some intuitive check of like, I know what to do. And you're
yeah,
like, there's a fucking
talk
kid
about
right
it.
there. Do you see it? Like,
Talk about it.
what do we do with her?
I don't
I
know.
don't know. Mm. It was like, and so for like 3 days, you just kind of sit in a living room with completely immobile and utterly unable to do anything. You're just like giving it a good stare. You're like, wow, still
that
there.
that
Holy
happened.
shit, that happened. We did that. That was
We
real.
did that. I remember crying. They were about to release me, and I'm crying, just staring out the window. And one of the nurses, she's helping me get my shit together, and she's like, "Are you okay? Like, why are you crying?" I'm like, "I don't know what I'm supposed to do." Like, what? You should be crying too. Cry for me. Cry for
Can we
me.
cry together? That would be nice. Let's
This would be
try that.
cathartic. It's just it's wild. Like you just send people home with a brand new being. You don't know shit about shit. You don't know if this person's even taking them to a home. What I mean?
Mhm.
It's just like, you just get left to your own devices and you have to figure it out. That's
Yeah,
fucking gnarly. Just really,
it's crazy.
that's
It's
wild.
crazy.
Oh man. Yeah, that's unsettling as shit. But we made it.
We
We made it.
we
We
did.
did
Hey,
it.
right,
We did
right.
it. We
Healthy
did
kids
it.
at home. We figured it out.
Yeah, they're still
Hmm.
alive.
Yep. And now I know too much about raising kids, more than I ever thought I wanted or needed to know. But all to the good. So,
That's dope.
anyway, you're here not because you're an embryologist, not because you're a mom of twins, though both of those
Nope.
things are wonderful, and I'm grateful that you are pursuing both of them, but it's because you're a dancer.
I
So,
am.
and particularly a burlesque dancer. Is
Yes,
that correct? Yes.
that is
So,
correct.
how does one find his, her, or their way into the world of burlesque dancing?
Well, there are many ways. Oh yeah, well, probably not many ways, but there's a couple, right? So, I think the average is someone has interest and they take a couple of classes, and then usually like a class will wrap up with like a display of these are new students that have just graduated. There's a school of burlesque here in New York, and I think there might be another two or so courses in burlesque. Um, for me, I just kind of birthed myself into the scene. So my first intro was back in 2010, and I went to a show, and it was different. I mean, it's just like this dive bar near the one of the bridges. And it's kind of gross, it's like a dingy little bar, but it was cool. And then these women are just dressed in the nines in like gowns and sparkly things and feathers. And they're just really owning a space. Like, and it didn't
Mm.
matter that the space was dingy. It was like your focus was on them, your attention was on them. And they just really owned their themselves. And that just in enticed me completely. So so I started doing some readings and I just started talking, contacting some people. And I got my first um, chance at a bar at called Nurse Betty, and that's in the Lower East Side of New York. And I did like an amateur night sort of dealio, and I came out and I won them over, right? And not just like a crowd, but also the producer. And then it just went from there. So the one producer was at another show and they saw me and they were like, okay, let's have Voodoo. Voodoo, do you mind? Da, 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 da. And then I got caught up in another show that was traveling. So I got to do some traveling around the States with the Sweet Spot. Um, that's that's a little more raunchy and fun and just like a raucous. And yeah, then I've just been sticking around it in New York and just hanging ten and shimmying and shaking my my little ass around New York at the nighttime, the night hours.
Amazing. Like tripped and fell into it is actually a pretty common answer on this podcast of like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I
I was just
saw
like,
it, it was
let's give it a
dope, and then
shot.
I did it, and that was that.
Yeah, and
Um,
that was 2010. That's when that's when I started.
that's when you fell into it, which is
Yeah.
amazing. How so like how do you define burlesque? Because I think in the past I might have said like if I see it, I know it, but I
hmm
couldn't necessarily write down an answer. So I'm curious, like how would you answer that question?
Um, exaggerated.
Mm,
Everything. It's almost likened to like drag. It's just everything about it is just about exaggeration. Exaggeration on the sexual and sensual, exaggeration on the costumes, exaggeration on the hair sometimes, And each person just takes a little bit of a play off of that. Some people really coast in to the sexual and the sensual. Some do more into the absurd and the funny. Some do just like weird shit and you love it. There's
mhm.
different strokes for different folks, right?
Right.
And yeah, I think it's just like exaggerated humanness. I don't
Yeah.
know. Because I like, even for myself, I don't necessarily think of myself as like a classic burlesque dancer,
Okay.
which is more of your like slow burns, classic music, classic orchestra music and chamber music, that kind of thing. Um, but I can do it and I enjoy it. And then I also like dancing to like Deftones, something a little more
Mm.
melodic and metalish, And so it just depends on the feeling, the venue, the crowd. Um, yeah, but I mean, burlesque is just a kind of catch-all, as at least it's become so. It's a catch-all for anyone that's interested in digging into themselves and becoming vulnerable together as a performer and as an audience member. Right? You're gonna, it's a giving and receiving on both ends. So, um, yeah, you got to have some audacity to get up on stage too. So, exaggerated audacity. That's what.
I like it. I like it. Um, I want to hear more about this audience performer dynamic. Like what about burlesque or what in the context of burlesque is unique in terms of how the audience and the performers interact?
Okay. Well, because I can only speak for myself. Um, I like, so what we would call a floor show. So there's stage shows where you have your stage performance. You're up on it, the performer's up on a stage, audience is down. You just kind of play around with the audience. For me, I like a little more intimacy and I like to get into the audience. I like to make eye contact. And that is a part of the dance, right? So it's not just me shaking and shimmying, it's me winning you over and getting you into the performance as well.
Mm.
So it's one of my favorite things to see, a grumpy face turn around and smile, right? Because I've allowed them to feel comfortable being comfortable. Because you see someone, it's a dimly lit room, but it's not a strip joint, right? So you're in a bar or a restaurant or whatever, and you have some broad you've never seen before undressing in front of you. It's a lot sometimes, or you're on a date and then you're watching this beautiful man or woman undressing. Sometimes, you can get a little flush. To sort of circumvent that, I get into you. I want to get into your face. I want to get in your lap. I want to say, hey, it's okay. I'll go up to couples and hold their hand together
Mm.
and say, it's safe. You know what I mean? It's safe and it's okay to enjoy yourself and to embrace my vulnerability of me showing you my body, because why? The audacity, right? And it's okay for you to take that in and feel empowered too. It's like it's not something to shun and to hide from. Like this is a performance. This is art. The body, existence, this is all art. Take it in and let's share this moment. So laugh, clap, don't fucking whatever, but like we're in this space for at least 5 minute songs, 10 minute songs. Let's enjoy ourselves. Shit.
Yeah. That's so fascinating. What so I think you said this earlier, like to some extent, and I think this is true of all artists, like your persona on stage is an extension of something that you hold within you, that the desires to be shown that may not always
Hmm.
be appropriate in other contexts, and the
Hmm.
stage or the
Hmm.
burlesque show or whatever is a more welcoming, inviting space in which to pour that energy. So
Hmm.
was that sort of audacity something that was always present within you?
Yes. So I love talking to people. I love getting to know people's stories, and you can't talk to everyone all the time, right? But sometimes a look is enough. Sometimes a touch is enough. And sometimes, just a gentle passing of stroking a man's hair or, shaking a woman's hair up and stuff. It's just like, I see you too. So you're seeing me, but I see you as well. And
Mm.
then you have other audience members like, oh my God, did you see that? She just touched her hair, like, or she gave him a unsuspecting kiss or something. They're involved in it too, because now they're paying attention to that audience member, and they sort of become a part of the performance as well. They're performing now, because they're
Mm.
enjoying it, and then they're getting attention, and everyone's just sharing in this space. And I mean, it's just the bee's knees for me. Like when you have a good space and a good audience, and they're into it, and you're into it, it just feels good. It just feels really, really good.
I mean, it sounds beautiful in
Yeah.
so many ways. Like, and I mean the human part of it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
I mean, we forget it, right? Like every once in a while, on social media, I see a lot of like disparaging remarks. I was like, oh, well, this isn't that, and this isn't that, and this isn't burlesque, or this is cabaret, or this is,
mm,
just someone in a cheap this, or someone's just overly bling that. Like, I would tell you, one of the most amazing performances I've seen more recently was a performer named Pearl Noir, and she came out. Beautiful music is playing. It's like live music, and she came out in like a leopard cloth, right? Just like some kind of, I don't want to call it a bathrobe, but just like some kind of sheer-ish robe that she could have just walked, like rolled out of bed in and
mm,
came onto the stage and performed. She fucking killed it. She killed it, and she just had the audience just, just like wrapped in and wanting just to see her move. And often, especially with burlesque, you have like performers like Dita Von Teese and stuff. It's all about opulence. It's like big is better. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is about seeing someone without the
mm,
bling, without the glitter. Of course, makeup, because you need makeup, but but to actually be able to see someone move to music rhythmically and invite you into that rhythm too. I think
mm.
that makes burlesque magical to me.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
so I
Where
try to
did
do that every time.
For sure. I'm going to get to a question about like how, like what makes you feel great about performance. I think you've planted seeds for that answer. But before we get there, the name, from
Oh, my
whence did it
stage name.
come? Yes.
So I played around with a couple of ideas and came upon Voodoo Onyx. It was from a friend. We were doing like House of Onyx. We were trying to formulate this little gaggle of friends, to have a little name. And I had a time in my life that I was known as the seductress of the group in my heyday. before children stripped and all the way, Um, and they would always be like, "What voodoo did you put on these dudes? Like, what's wrong with you?" Like sometimes the women too, they're just like, "What do you do? What the hell did you do?" It's just like I don't know. And the voodoo just kind of stuck.
Mm.
But it's just blown into something bigger because I try to do everything with intention. So from like I think I might have wrote this to you, but like from the backstage to the on stage, everything is with intention. Like I want people to be backstage because usually in burlesque in New York at least, like everyone's changing in tight little bathrooms or back areas, a stairwell, and you're sharing tight quarters with people. I want people to feel as comfortable with me as I can, like I want us to just talk about nonsense. Who cares about the show out front? We're gonna do it regardless. How are you doing today? You know?
Mm.
And that's what I was saying. Like I less like the magic of connecting with people and not just the audience members, but my fellows, because they're important to me too. You're going to be working, like I've worked with some of these cats for the span of my career, some new, some old, and I don't want any bad blood, know, so,
Thankfully,
you
yes.
know, so,
Skip.
I just like all of it, man, it's just like everything matters. Everything matters. Every little nuanced move, word, everything matters. And with that, I take everything as a like a like a spell, like because all these have power to. Every word has power to make someone feel like shit or to make someone feel good. And
Mm.
my intention is to only leave people feeling good and wanting more of this. I'm full of shit, but yeah.
It's all about me at the end of the day. It's what I'm in it
I want to
for.
feel good. So you feel good. So that makes me feel good. And that's all that matters. I feel good at the end of the day.
And the cycle repeats. It's a beautiful thing. Do you believe in magic?
I do. I do.
Say more.
Because there's, so I work in embryology. It is magic that any of us exist.
Mm.
I'm being so real. Like this, this, this egg could not be, right? This sperm could get lost on this long journey into oblivion for what it's worth at a cellular level.
Right.
And for those two to come together to make a viable birth and to just like divide and cellular division and just divide. And then to make this entire being of cells that has a breath, to have a communication over the fucking internet. You know what I mean? Like it's going to space for crying out loud. We're talking it it's just it's all magic.
Mm.
And it's not this sort of supernatural magic like a god and a this and a that, no offense to anyone, but it's like this is just chaotic nature finding a way to survive, and to
Mhm.
make something. It's just like it just needs to make shit. It's like you leave bacteria in a culture dish long enough, it'll make a larger colony. It's like it just wants to create. So I say that to say this. Yes, I believe in magic. I think it's magic. There's magic all around us, and I think oftentimes because of technology, we forget to look around. We forget to listen to music or listen to a person's voice and really listen, like to listen for tones of sadness or happiness or actual joy. To look, like I love during the fall, just crunching the leaves. That's my favorite. Like it's just finding the crunchy ones and getting a little down when I don't find a crunchy one. And yeah, it's just about taking appreciation, taking stock of everything. Yeah, it's weird. It's wild. I don't smoke either. This is just me just being freaking weird sometimes.
No, I'm 1,000% tracking. I too believe in magic, which is why I asked the
Good,
question.
good.
Um, please allow me to briefly interrupt my wonderful conversation to let you know about a few things that we have coming up. I have 2 shows on deck. One is on February 23rd up in Boulder. It is with So Far Sounds, which means the location is actually undisclosed. You buy your ticket the day of the show. They will send you an email with the official location. They're always in really interesting spots. It's a great crowd. It's a great community of artists. Highly, highly recommended. And then I have a show on the 10th with Concert. That's Qoncert at the Roxy, opening up for Flojo. I'm going to be doing brand new sets for both shows, so I'm very excited about them. If you would like tickets or more information, please go to www.jackdawkinsraps.com. So my next question is like, do you remember when that sort of awareness and presence was cultivated? Like, did it come from a person, an experience? It's usually a whole convergence of factors, but like, how did that awareness evolve in you?
Well, over time, and I think the nail on the head is when I had like a significant death in my family, and it was just like, what? That happens, and people can be good, it could be great, we must perish. And it is unforeseen when, where, how, but so what do you have control over other than right now and how you present yourself? And I want to present, and from there, it's just like, I want to present myself as kind and caring and compassionate, and I want to see things, I want to experience things. So like right after that death, I was like, all right, we're booking a trip. I went by myself and I booked a trip to Greece to see Metallica play. Didn't know how I was getting there. It was like out in this these like large foregrounds, out in like outside of Athens, like a 2-hour drive outside of Athens. I was just like, fuck it. I had an eat, pray, love moment, I guess, without praying and then and without the eating.
Oh my God. That's
But
amazing.
I was like, I'm in love with music and nature, and I'm. I got there. I ended up meeting this guy. I'm riding around on his motorcycle without a fucking helmet in Greece, and they don't know how to drive. It's scary as shit.
Mm-hmm.
And but he's like, oh, you know what? You want to go? I'll take you. His name was Ahiles. And he's like, you want to go? I was like, I know someone. I know someone. I'm like, okay. Never met this dude in my life. I'm like, okay, we're gonna go on a 2-hour car drive with a person I don't know in a country I don't know, and we made it alive. We got really hammered, and I ended up standing in a mild mosh pit because I was trying to stay to the back because I got a couple of squeezes walking through a couple of mosh pits. Of course, it happens. Not saying it's good or anything. It's just it happens,
It
and I'm
happened.
just and I'm just like bawling during like nothing this their song Nothing Else Matters. And from there, just like nothing does matter. I'm just here. I'm here to experience, and I'm here to take back whatever experience I have back to the universe. And I just like allow that to happen. So I want to take everything in. I want to take every story in. I want to take in as many experiences, and I want to give as much love as I can. I mean, I give some hate too, because some people are just assholes. But
You're in New York. You're gonna run into a
yeah,
couple.
oh
It's gonna
man,
happen.
fuck me, yeah. People are pieces of shit, but yeah, I love them.
Yeah. Not all. Not all. But what? Yeah, like could be. Could be. That's amazing. What a
I'm just
what a fucking moment though. Holy smokes.
yeah.
At the back of a
Yeah.
Metallica concert in Greece that you drove 2 hours with someone you didn't know. It was like
We lost the car. Even because he got so fucked up, like we lost the car. Got chased by people that we found their alcohol, and I guess there was drugs in there too. But I ended up drinking alcohol. He took some of their drugs. So we're running now. Yeah, got chased by a dog. Got pulled over by the cops. They told me like, don't say anything because if they know that you're American, it's a problem. So I'm just sitting in the back, and they're like, you speak, English with the flashlight. And I'm just like, Yeah. Yeah. Is this okay?
Oh my God.
Riot. Riot.
Holy smokes.
But that's how I found myself,
Yeah, huh? Mm-hmm. I,
through death and rebirth in the middle of a field with strangers.
but that's what's so crazy, right? Like your story, the details of it, unlikely to be replicated by many other folks out there in the universe. But the
Yeah.
experience of having like an awareness land in you that is
Yeah.
bigger than you, bigger than that moment, that feels as like, oh shit, like I'm seeing the map of the stars and I get it. Like that experience is relatable. And like
Yeah.
that's what I think is so fucking beautiful about stories.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. You storyteller, you. Yes. Yes. Look at
Can't
you.
help it. Can't help it.
It's like connected the dots.
That's what I try to do. It's like, well, to me, like that is the fun side of having a brain that doesn't work the way everyone else's does. Is like I see the stars. I build the
Yeah.
constellations. That's what it
Yeah.
does. It's not fucking great with offices or general admin work, but it's
Listen,
super
that's
duper
supposed to
for
kill it.
some other
Those things
things.
kill it.
Yeah,
They
real
kill
quick.
and they kill the ambition. They kill the magic.
I, yeah,
Shit.
counterindicated. Um, what's your relationship with self love like?
Oh, it's real good. Nah.
Mm,
Mm. Well, self-love is at times a chased target, right?
mm,
So it's real easy to love someone else, I think. Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to love someone else because you realize you don't have much control over it, so you can cherry pick things that you like, and you're just like, okay, I love you, it's gonna be okay, we'll make it work, or fucking whatever. Um, for myself, like especially after having kids, things got a little shaky, right? So
mm,
I was I am very much into weightlifting and lifting real heavy stuff, and throughout the pregnancy, you're not really supposed to do those things. I mean, I did them. My doctor was aware. Don't do this at home if you don't lift beforehand.
facts.
But you know, so I was always very strong, and after giving birth and having to take time off, I just felt really weak and sort of like meh and flat, a little flabby, and because that's supposed to happen, you know what I mean? You just like I just popped out fucking twins. Like, what do you expect your body to look like? And like it was really hard on myself. I was just like, why hasn't it snapped back? That comes back to this technology thing. You're just exposed to people's highlight reel, and you just think, oh well, why doesn't mine look like that? Is this the killer of happiness there, comparing yourself. So um, I feel much better now because I was able to recapture myself, and like before things started free falling, where I was just like, I don't feel good about this, I don't feel good about that, because it's really everything's a slippery slope when it comes to self love. It's like it just takes one thing and a disparaging comment about yourself, or hear something or read something, you just start to dig in. And there's a point in this, right, this current existence as a mom, I just stopped giving a fuck. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? You
Mm,
know? And you gotta just talk to yourself. And I tell girlfriends this too. It's just like talk to yourself. Look in the mirror, because that's all that matters. Look in the mirror and really say, like, the fuck is the problem? you know? And that's what I did. I like, and sometimes I still get shaken, and I'm like, I go into myself and I just like, the fuck is the problem? You're doing great. You're 10 steps ahead of where you think you should be, you know what I mean, or what you think you could be. Doing fantastic. Now shut the fuck up. Let's do this. Let's do this. You you got to get candid sometimes with yourself. You got to be realistic. It's like, okay, well, what do you want? I want abs, or I want a bubble butt. Do the fucking work. You know? You want hair? All right. Fucking massage that shit. I don't know. Go get a wig. Go feel yourself, honey. But don't sit there and wallow. There's no time for wallowing.
mm,
And it's just self check-ins and talking to yourself and boosting yourself up, and being your own real cheerleader, and getting outside has also been tremendous. um, for self love and self talk. Because it's about talking to yourself. It's not even just like loving, like, oh, that sounds almost hokey to me now that I'm just like, old and tad. Like, I need some talk. I need some self talk. What's my self talk? You're tired, but you feel good? Yes. You look good? Yes. You smell okay? All right, we're good to go. Life is grand.
Let's go.
Just baby steps, man. Baby steps. We put too much weight on everything. Even the self love. It's like it's not going to be
Mm,
perfect every day.
no.
No relationship, whether external or internal, is ever perfect. So give room, give grace. Every little moment will get better, or maybe
Hmm.
it won't. But you gotta try. You gotta be a participant, right?
Right. Well, and you don't get to control it either way. So like you can sit
No,
there
no,
being nervous about it or
no.
march forward and find out. Fuck around and find out.
Fuck around and find out.
That's the one. That's the
That's
one.
it.
I feel like I've had this interesting transition lately where like I have realized that the right flavor of self-talk for me is very much like a grandmother. And it's ironic I say that because not either of my grandmothers specifically, but the
Uh-huh.
type of person who can so nourish you and comfort you and provide for you and will so quickly call you on your bullshit.
Mhm.
It has to be both. It can be
Mhm.
like when
Mhm.
you just feel pathetic and sad that you can still be held and loved
Mhm.
and kind of like smacked out of it, like, but also let's fucking go on. Like, you're amazing
Yeah.
and I love you, but like, hurry
Yeah.
the fuck up, please.
Yeah. Giving yourself some empathy from someone else's voice. But isn't that interesting too? It's like, so when you're feeling down, do you hear a different voice? Like, ah, I fucked up or something. Like, do you hear another familiar voice?
Hmm.
Does that
Great.
question make sense? So you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I do. I do. And I think like the voice for a long time was like, I would describe it as more rageful of just
Huh.
like it was all gas no brake of just like shut the fuck up, get out there, like there's no time for this, blah 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 blah. And when you do that for long enough you become brittle.
Yeah.
And like I just found myself becoming increasingly brittle and I was like, well, this is not how I would like to live.
Yeah. Can't
um
stay hard all the time.
mm-mm.
Yeah.
And so inevitably like there is something of not an overcorrection but like to allow gentleness in, ironically, like you have to lean pretty far into it. Like, so you have to really, really like let it feel soft and let it feel
Mhm.
comfortable. And it's like, it's a fracturing of self is kind of how
Mhm.
I experienced it of like, I have to actually let part of my identity die and remind myself that that's not actually who I am. That is
Yeah.
how I have acted to survive or to function in these structures that I've created for myself.
Mhm.
And ultimately, that's a choice. And so, do I want to be that person? Do I want to function in those environments? And the answer
Mhm.
overwhelmingly was no. And so now, like sometimes more often than not, I would say like the voice is very feminine. Um,
Hmm.
and sometimes that's in like a writing muse kind of thing. Sometimes it is the grandma of like, hey, I love you, but like, come on, you can fucking go do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And then of course, like my voice swims around in there some, but like it's
Yeah.
becoming a choir. And
Mhm.
I don't know. To me, it's kind of like the movie Inside Out, and it's not processed by emotion, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it is. It's like you have multiple needs and drivers, and some are heightened and some are lowered at different time, lowered at different times, and like
Yeah.
it's you're just aware of the conversation and how you want to move through it. Does that make any sense?
Oh, complete.
Okay,
I
good,
mean, you know,
good.
we all build these little houses, these little homes for ourselves, for protection, and then there are
Mm,
different voices that kind of keep you in those comforts. It's your comfort zone, and there's voices that will keep you in that comfort zone, um, because they don't want you to get hurt or you've
right.
experienced hurt before, and it tries to keep you safe. So you'll have the rage, right? It's like, oh, well, if you do that, you'll fuck it up. Or if you do this, you'll fail, or and with great practice, I think, and like realization, like this voice serves no purpose. It serves to only keep me in the dark, keep me in this house, and not experience anything in the the joys and the pains that come with existence. So lean into the grandmother voice.
Hmm.
She'll let you
Absolutely.
play in the yard, get your knees scraped up, and then put some betadine on there, and say, "It's okay, baby. Now get the fuck out of my face," you
Yeah. You got mud everywhere. Get the fuck out of here, please. That's how it works. It's yeah. Like it's funny. It's interesting. It's funny. It's interesting. It's both. Wow. Um, I think I became an artist later in life. You know, I didn't really
Okay.
start doing this shit until I was 33, and so like, and I think all artists understand that failure is a part of being an artist. You have to try shit that doesn't, right? 100%.
Yep.
Um, but what I like, part of this whole self-love, self-awareness process is like, okay, cool. So the part of failure that makes it miserable is the dialogue about what it means about you as a person or your character.
Hmm.
And so if you want to fuck up enough to become a talented artist, you can't really afford to carry the emotional baggage of believing it means that you're a giant piece of shit.
Hmm.
Like you won't make it two steps out the door. It's just
No.
impossible.
Yeah, you
Um,
gotta leave everything right there. It's like, if
mhm.
okay, this is a bag of shit. Like I've had shit shows, like I've had shows where I'm like, I'm not feeling hot, or like the audience just wasn't feeling it, so you kind of don't feel it,
Yeah.
and you know, yeah, what, life goes on. That's the funny thing about it. This was a bag of shit. Tomorrow will be better.
Yes.
Maybe, maybe
Maybe.
if you give it a shot. If you give it a shot.
Yes.
But yeah, you can't get bogged down by failing, man. I mean, that's you fail up. You fail
Hmm.
up.
Yes. And it usually makes for great stories. Like,
Uh, hello.
right? Like, hey, we all need we all need a couple of good stories about like you will
Hmm.
not believe the time. And
Hmm.
like, oh, those are the best.
Yeah.
Um, well, speaking of, do you have a spectacularly bad performance that comes to mind? Is like, yeah, I'm glad that you know what? I don't judge myself, but boy, I would love to never do that again.
Huh. Uh, what's funny? Like, nothing was horrendous. I've never had a horrendous show. Like,
Mm,
it's never been like, oh man,
yeah.
Um, I've 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 said yes to things and places that I shouldn't have.
Okay.
So I'll be myself. I'm always myself. But sometimes, and there's this really early on in my career as a performer. I would say yes. I'm like, oh, I want to get out there. I want to get practice. I want to, you know, get my name, sort of settle into the field of burlesque. And I was saying yeah to a lot of weird shit. So, yeah, started going into some weird realms that I'm like, this is fun, but this isn't for me, or some dingy bars that were just like, this is not the place, this is not for me. And then this is also like my boyfriend, who's now my husband, he was going along with me too. And he sometimes he would just feel skeeved out, which
Mm,
skeeved me out, because I'm like, oh man, so that had to be really bad, because you're feeling uncomfortable. Your discomfort makes me feel uncomfortable, because like, not that I need his validation, but it was like, I want you to feel comfortable with something that I'm plan on doing for as long as I so choose, so
right.
like, let's work this out. So,
Hmm.
yeah, but I think it was like, it was a weird story. I think I did a show. It was a sex party, so I did a sex party show. All right. So I don't know, fucking know. I don't know how I got wrapped up into it. Anyway, so I did a sex party, and I was like the opening festivities for said sex party. And they're not weird or anything. Like, these are just people that are paying to play. Um, but being a performer, they think you're also there to play as well. And I'm like, no, no, I'm
Mm.
just here to entertain, grab a drink, watch some of this, because I'm a weirdo. I'm a voyeur. Like, let's just sit back and watch. I'm gonna get out of here. And um, to leave out any like weird moments, yeah, I shipped up. That was the weirdest one. I think it's just like a sex party that I probably shouldn't have done. And he probably didn't need a performer. They just needed to have enough lube
Yeah.
for
That would have done it.
because sometimes,
That would have been enough.
yeah, it's like 'cause sometimes it's like, oh, you know what's hot right now? Burlesque. So they'll just like throw burlesque on like a shit pie and like
Oh
this will
my
make it better.
God.
It's like just go and enjoy yourselves. It's a party. You're having sex. Have fun. You don't need
Right.
burlesque. Yeah.
That's so like something I end up talking about a lot on here is understanding the context in which your audience exists. And if you had a room full of, I don't know the number of people, but let's call it tens of people who are all like
Uh-huh.
anticipating getting ready to fuck, that's not the crowd that's super
No,
interested
no,
in your
no,
performance. They're
no,
not super into it.
no. And they're like sussing because no one knows anyone, so they're like trying to suss out the play. Like, what's the grounds
Who
like?
am I grabbing? Oh my
And
God.
yeah, who am I grabbing? Who's gonna
Yep.
go back there with this guy? I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Ah. But I picked up some interesting stories there. That was like a beautiful young woman, and she was just there like to kind of be like a dom almost, but she wasn't like a
Okay.
true blue dominatrix. And but she was telling me her story. She was hired as like a secretary of some guy. She doesn't do a lick of work. She doesn't know how to secretary, you know. But whenever he needs, he'll call her in for spankings. Like he just needs to be kept in line. So he hired her to be his sort of secretary. Yeah, it's like, it's just weird shit, man. I don't know. I love it.
Cool.
Yeah, just power play, I guess is what I think they call it or something like
Yeah,
that.
that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Completely.
I don't know. I like this is going to sound very dystopian. It's becoming clearer and clearer that like the way we think about employment is going to shift dramatically, and what's going to be left is like the ways in which we interact as human beings that aren't replaceable. And so
Yeah.
like I think there's only going to be more of that of just like,
You
hey,
know
like
what?
this is a human need that I have and you're a human and there's symbiosis.
Wow. Maybe I have to do another shift. I just get
You just keep pivoting. Who
just
knows?
pivot. Maybe I could help someone. It's like, do you need a spanking today, sir? I'm here for you. It's
I'm
just
here
like
for you.
that'll be $10,000.
Minimum per spank. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Bye.
The way you were describing what you do during a burlesque show, the way you see people and connect to them, I do think is something that the world needs more of. And it sounds like that's an environment in which it happens uniquely. And so I guess my question is like, what would it look like to start to bring some of that human connectivity in different settings? Maybe not a sex
Hmm.
party, but like certainly like, I don't think office burlesque is going to catch on imminently. Who knows? Give it time. But like, particularly also because like, and I will acknowledge my own ignorance here. Like, I always like it's like burlesque is vaguely sexual and it's over there. I
Hmm.
know nothing about it. Um, but what you describe, I think, is so essential and so needed. Is like one of the things I've described post COVID is like everyone has completely lost their intuition around like the joy in human connection. Because for 3 years it was like you
Hmm.
could kill me, you fucking stay over there. Like ideally we will
Don't breathe on me.
kind of right. And in New York,
Yeah.
man, like I was certainly not there the entire time, but I was there like a couple of times, and especially that summer. And like,
Mm,
ooh, like the fucking air in the subway is already thick. Like it
gross.
was
Yeah.
triple thick of just like
Yeah.
everyone's like squirming and it was like blech.
Yeah.
But there's a hangover now. Like, and I think there's like eye contact is down, smiling at other people is down, like general courtesies of like moving the fuck out of the way on the sidewalk is
Oh,
like,
just talk
holy
about it. Shit.
smoly, man. Like but it does bring the question of like, you need, I think, some kind of like purposeful, intentional way of reintroducing people. It's like, oh yeah, like connecting with people can be beautiful and
Yeah.
like nourishing and soul affirming.
So when shows started to re-emerge towards the end of, you don't want to call it post-COVID. I guess we're still living in COVID, right?
Kind of
But
still here. Yeah.
yeah, still here. When burlesque and like live entertainment was starting to reemerge, um, you could tell like the audience members were just hungry, right? To be
Mm.
out, to be social, to see something, feel something. And I think that's only picked up. Um, but it's not with every performance and not with every performer that you're going to feel those kinds of things, that connectivity. Some people are just really good at performing and they entertain, which is numero uno. You want to entertain, right? You want to be an entertainer,
Yes.
because it's not enough just to dance, I guess. Um, so at least with working in embryology during the daytime, I'm more of the one of more friendly. My director likes to say, "You're just lovely with the patients." And I'm just like, okay, but everyone's fucking scared. Everyone's petrified of living. There's just so much. It's always happening. Like there's always something happening in the news. There's always something to be fearful of. There's always someone to be fearful of, whether it's a virus or a homeless person or a gunman. You know what I mean? Like there's always so much fear driving the vehicle of humanity right now. So to me, as me, out in the world, I like to try and like cut through all of that. So that's why I take time, especially if I look. You can feel people's eyes, right? Like some people are into it, some people aren't. You know, every performance and scene is different. You can feel people out, and then there's just that one person that stands out that they really, really want it. And I really, really want to give it to them. You know, just like give them all that attention. Just like let's do this. Let's do this little dance in front of everyone and let them know it's okay. You know, and I do that at
Mm.
work where I talk to a patient and I'm just like, you're going to be okay. You know, at this moment, it may feel heavy. It may feel like the end because, they're trying to have a child. Like some people, they can have a kid over a year, 2 years. They've been trying for years or what have you. And they put so much pressure on that moment. It's like you have all these other moments. Life is made up of all these moments. Breathe
Mm.
breathe and share this moment with me. It's okay. Everything's going to be okay. So I bring that same sort of like everything's going to be okay to a show when I'm performing and let them know, like, listen, we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time and it's okay and it's safe to have a good time with me. And again, every performer is like, I have a couple of like great personalities that I just like, anytime I watch them perform, it's like they know how to make people have a good time and let them
Mm.
let their guard down. And that's what it is. It's like having people let their guard down and really cheer for you and cheer for themselves. Like, wow, that was a fucking awesome performance. Like, if I had like standing ovations, half the time I'm like, I wasn't really trying, but thank y'all. You know what I mean? This is great. This is great. But because I had them feeling, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like you were saying, like with post COVID, like people are afraid to feel like, and afraid to look and then afraid to listen. Like, I asked, I take the Q train and I asked, like, is this the Q? 'Cause I didn't know what train I got on. I know I was rushing and I just hopped on the train. And everyone just like, I don't know if I should talk. I'm asking a fucking simple question. Is it a Q or is it not? So on your average day, everyone's just a clam. I want them to pull out the smile muscle. Haha, you got it? Clam muscle.
You with your mollusk jokes. That's fucking textbook. You're gonna make me get my biology textbook out of here. You said gametes earlier. You said cytoplasm. You're just fucking taking me all over the place here. Man,
I'm
oh
sorry.
man.
Hi. It's been a long week. I give you what I got. I give you what I got.
It's wonderful and I'm grateful to receive it. That's all I would say. Um one thing we didn't touch on, like you mentioned like when you have a good audience, like what's a not great audience?
Man, if they're just sitting there, hands folded, just sort of like reluctant to enjoy themselves. And that happens. That happens. I mean, you won't get an entire audience, but sometimes people feed off of others,
Sure.
depending on the audience. So you're just, you know, I'm able to break some of that. But there's always going to be people that like, oh, I don't get it. Well, what the fuck is there to get? It's what is there to get? It's like, what? Have a cocktail, ease up, like just tighten the butt cheeks,
Yeah.
just relax.
Release the sphincter. It's good for
Yeah,
you.
release. And just like laugh and enjoy the absurdity of seeing a woman wearing like a costume that costs way more than it should, undress from it, throw it across the room like it's worth nothing, and then just do this. Take me in, just dancing, take me in. Like that's really what it is. Like there's people out there that have like I mean, like really drop money into costumes, like $8,000 for just a gown, right? Feathers, sequins, rhinestones, all the blingies. Fucking fling that shit. Just fling it for for like suspense and surprise. Wow, like it's absurd. Like what?
Yeah.
So when you have a bad crowd, and that's usually when they're silent or they're just like feeling weird. Like sometimes you get an awkward crowd. They've never had the experience of watching burlesque. They don't know what to do. It's like I don't know what to do with my hands. I just don't know. So they just like sit there, clutch their pearls a little bit,
Mm.
um, and it's usually younger people that I've noticed. Like sometimes in your 20s, like early 20s, dates early, not even early, like they've been dating for a while, but they're unsure of one another. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, it's usually that. So it's like young and couples that are in a weird place in their relationship. Yeah. So yeah,
Which
I'm just
separately, you want to pull them aside is like, is there a reason you thought this would be a good idea in the midst of like your your sexual dysfunction as a couple? Like, did you do the math on that one, or did you just decide to fucking roll the dice when you walked out
I
the
mean,
door?
maybe like a dude might have thought his lady would be into seeing other women. Like, look at these women being empowered, man. Like, don't you want to do that too, babe? Fuck you, Stan. Fuck you. That's
Yeah.
all I imagine happening. But yeah, I don't know. People are people.
People are people, and sometimes they people really hard,
Yeah, a little
just
hard, a little too much.
all over the place. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man.
So, how much are you performing now?
So right now I'm performing 1 to 3 times a month. So I've taken a back seat because I'm also in a graduate program.
Okay.
It's like so yeah. So I'm going for my master's in in um in embryology for what it's worth. Just like reproductive sciences and such. And yeah, so I don't really have time all the time, and I have
Hmm.
exams all the time. So I have a thesis to write. Anyway, so like there's no time. So I've taken a bit of a L on not performing as much. But what's great about it is it's always going to be there in some
Hmm.
semblance, and hopefully, producers still love little old me, little half me. But yeah, I'm recently I've been pretty busy um, with performing. Do I do plugs? Can I do plugs? It's like I love
Yeah,
my place,
100%.
Bathtub Gin in New York City, and just one of my favorite places to perform. One of my favorite performances has been at Bathtub Gin, where I get in the tub to a Beyonce song, Black
Hey.
as Hell. I just get.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
everyone else they want to do like sexy and all this kind of shit, and I'm like, that's awesome for you. For me, let's just powerhouse this. This is like really fucking yeah. Let's fuck this room. Let's get everybody pregnant. Let's just do.
Fertility for all of you. I just spread that shit.
Fertility and baths. So it's just like dumping water and just like going and straddling randos and they allow it. They're just like into it. Yeah, it's a great time. Great
Oh
time.
my God.
Favorite
Amazing.
place.
Bathtub Gin, New York City. Be there.
It's
Do
the
it.
spot. It's the spot.
It's the spot. Final question for the evening, though I'm so enjoying our conversation.
Me
When I come
too.
to New York, because family is there, I hope I can say hi. That would be a
Yes,
joy.
please. Yes, please.
What would you say to someone who is considering jumping into burlesque or trying it for the first time? What advice would you offer?
Well, I would say love yourself first.
Mm.
Find your own sense of validation because at times I sense that other performers go on stage looking for validation. They want an audience to love them, and there's no guarantee, and there's really no, like, you can't strong arm someone to liking you or applauding you. So know yourself first and know that I'm enough whether I get applause or not. I actually like entertaining. Like,
Mm.
it's not enough to like, oh, I just want to dance because I can dance. I was in like, a cheerleading squad when I was this and that or fucking whatever. Do you like to entertain? Because it's not just about like strong angles. it's it's about communicating, right? And
Mm.
communicating the music, communicating yourself as a performer, um, and resonating with your audience. Then I would do some research, like, what do you like? What do you like in terms of costumes, music, performance space, performance feel? Go to different shows, go take a class, um, and just read and watch things and watch old movies even. There's a lot of burlesque in old movies, and that gives you a bit of a peek into types of burlesque. And just go to shows, talk to people, listen to awesome shows like yours, awesome podcasts like yours.
Oh, thanks. No, that's amazing. I think last thing I will say, and then I'll let you go to bed. This is
I'm
probably
gonna
what
go
I should
study
do.
probably.
Oh,
Yeah,
yikes.
I'm a big girl. I gotta hold it down.
I believe in you. I believe in you and your inner voice.
Somebody does. Thank you.
They're going to get you through. I
Yes.
interviewed someone last week who's a freestyler. And
Dope.
one of the things we were talking about is the fact that like people underestimate the value of doing something you could never see yourself doing. Because
Mm.
once you've done it once, all your bullshit stories about the things you can't do
Hmm.
don't hold up. They don't
Yeah.
hold up. And burlesque in many ways feels like a beautiful opportunity for someone to be like, I could never do that. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
actually you can. And now that
You
you have,
can.
love it or don't, like
Yeah.
all to the good. But if you've tried it and you did it and you didn't die of embarrassment or whatever story you have about what would happen if you tried something like that, watch how your life starts to unfold and unfurl. It
And
could be
also,
really
like,
amazing.
that is amazing. And you don't have to do it for money or do shows. Like, you
Nope.
could just do it for your partner. You could do it for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Like, it's amazing just to get in connection. Like, ah, I am a sexy motherfucker. You know what I mean? Look at me. I'm cute. I'm funny. I'm quirky. Just get in touch with yourself. It doesn't always have to be about like, oh, I get paid at the end of this. Just go have fun sometimes. Take
Yes.
classes just for fun. Yeah.
Fuck around
Fucking proud.
and find out.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Is the summary. Oh my God. Voodoo, thank you so much. This was such a joy. I appreciate you. And I very
Thank
much look
you.
forward to continuing the conversation in the future because I know there's plenty more we could talk about.
Oh, yeah. There's so much dumb shit. It's great.
Thank you so much for listening to Stage Dive. I'm having so much fun having all these conversations and meeting these wonderful, wonderful people. But I appreciate that this is also going out to you, the person who is listening. So my request, my ask, my desire, if you have any curiosities, questions, guest recommendations, suggestions for the podcast, please send us an email at stagedivepodcast@gmail.com. We read every single email that comes through. We will get back to you. We really do want to hear what you love about the podcast, things that you think could improve, and how we can make this a better show for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much.